If you're anything like me, you may have sold your entire bank for a high ticket item like the BOFA or TBO, and now you're looking to rebuild. Today, I'm going to lay out my strategy for rebuilding my bank using the BOFA, primarily by doing bossing. In my opinion, doing a rebuild is 100% worth it. The DPS increase and new sweat-free tactics for PVM you gain with these items is an absolute game changer. And personally, I think that resetting and giving yourself these goals is one of the most fun things you can do in the game. So at the end, I'm going to show you how much I've made in total. But for now, here is a list of bosses that are great to farm with a BOFA. So keep in mind here, everyone plays the game differently. This is all my opinion. You may hate what I love. I may love what you hate, and that is okay. So starting off with Zora. With the BOFA, this fight is nearly AFK-able. It's that easy. You can't just stand and look away from your screen, but you do get a massive DPS boost. There's no sweaty 4-piece switches, and the added range of attacks is nice for avoiding any annoying damage from the Venom Clouds. This is the first boss I went to when I started the rebuild just to get a little bit of starter cash, and fun fact here, I actually pulled the pet around 188 KC. Super lucky. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording, but here is a screenshot. Now the cons for this boss, the money just isn't as good as the other options. It's consistent, but there isn't really a big drop. If you're new to bossing, learning the rotations and mechanics can be tricky. Luckily, this RuneLite Zora helper plugin is a huge help with this. So next up, I went to the God Wars to try out some Commander Zelana. This is an extremely easy boss. You essentially just need to kite her around the room. With basically every boss I'm showing in this video, if you guys didn't know, you can go to the RuneLite plugins and search for tile packs and then just search the boss you're doing here. That'll automatically pop up these tile markers. Once you've done that, you can just click the boss when your true tile reaches a marker and then click on the next one and repeat. So the pros for this, it's extremely easy. If you pull a crossbow, your bank value is going to skyrocket up as well. Other than that, the cons, it's pretty annoying to get the 40 kills to enter the boss room. It's recommended to get the keys from the wilderness to make this easier. If I'm being honest though, 90% of the time I can't be bothered to go and farm the keys, so I end up just AFK killing the Saradomin NPCs that are already fighting someone. That way you don't have to use any of your supplies before the boss fight. The GP an hour is also dependent on getting a unique, so you're really not going to get much until you hit that unique drop table. So I think it's best to use that Gomel's Hill teleport from the Combat Diaries to do a few runs here and there. Next up is Leviathan, and personally this was the hardest boss for me to get the hang of. The challenge is fun, but dying is annoying. If you grind this out and get a unique, you can make a ton of money. The only cons is, like I said, the challenging learning curve. As of the time of the recording, the value of the uniques are down a bit just because bots have really tanked the market for this. So that is a bit disappointing, but if you do like a challenge, this boss can definitely be worth to camp. I did pull the axe piece from Duke previously, so I plan on revisiting Leviathan and all the other desert treasure bosses in the future. Let's move on to what I consider the best boss on this list, the Phantom Musba. This has easily become one of my favorite new bosses. The fight is pretty engaging. It's also pretty easy once you get the hang of it. With the BOFA, this fight is pretty fast. It's not as fast as if you were using a TBO or a Missouri, for example, but you can learn a lot of ways to speed up the fight, like using Smite on the right tick or using freezes for the melee stage. The drops are consistent like Vorkath and Zora, and I've seen a ton of things like Dragon Plate Leg drops, Cannonball drops. At the time of recording, the Venator shards used to make the Venator bow are close to 14 million, which I'm guessing this is due to people using the bow for the Colosseum and or AFK Slayer, so this may change a lot in the future. That drop is only 1 in 100, so it feels great to have that one bigger drop along with the consistent profit, which makes this boss my go-to recommended for rebuilding. If you've done some Duke kills, you can get the teleport from the Ring of Shadows that puts you steps away from the Musba boss room. There's also tons of supply drops to make your trips even longer. The only cons is you do have to obviously learn the mechanics of the boss, but they are nowhere near as tricky as Leviathan in my opinion. This boss is also quest locked, so you may need some requirements just to actually be able to get to him. Sometimes you can also get unlucky timing if you just turn off your brain and you get hit by two mechanics at the same time. It's not a big deal, but it can be annoying sometimes. Now moving on to the Bandos boss. This is another great option. The BOFA 6-0 method is, in my opinion, the easiest to learn for this. If you've done a lot of Musba and Saradomin, you're going to pick this up very quickly. The big drops feel great. You can do this with friends if you find a tank. It's fast and easy KC to enter with goblins, making it one of the most farmable God Wars bosses. In terms of cons, if you mess up, you can get smacked pretty hard. The GP per hour, like the other God Wars bosses, is also pretty dependent on the drops that you get. So it depends on if you want to go with consistent moneymakers or if you want to go for a big lottery pull. So all in all, I recommend Bandos over the other God Wars bosses. It's easier to farm, it's a more enjoyable fight in my opinion, and it is fun to get those big drops. So here is a look at how much we've made in total since buying the Crystal Set and the BOFA. Comes out to around 85 million. If we take a look here, you can see we did get lucky at General Gardor with the Tacits drop. Other than that, the bulk of this was made through 100 Phantom Musba kills. You see we're pretty much around drop rate, if anything maybe a little bit over on the plate legs. I did do around 200 Duke kills once I got enough money to buy back a Fang. And you see from there we did get the axe piece. And then also we did 56 Zora, and that came out to around 4.5. The rest of this is pretty much just Slayer. Of course, we did also pull the Zora pet during this, so that is an added benefit. All in all, this is the most amount of money I've made through PVM so far. I highly recommend the rebuild. In episode 2, we're going to talk about some AFK methods that I have planned. And then in episode 3, I think we might visit some Slayer with the BOFA, give you guys a 3-part mini series. So if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments down below. So you can see currently we're around 465 million. We started around 300. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new here, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.